the chairperson for our next panel discussion, which is titled Board Readiness for Cyber Attack this afternoon. So Mr. Singh, can I have you back on stage while I welcome the panelists for this session. This session has been sponsored by Palo Alto Networks. The Security Forum Knowledge Partner is Ernst & Young. Our first panelist is Mr. Anil Bhasin, Managing Director, India and SAARC, Palo Alto Networks India Private Limited. Mr. Bhasin is an industry veteran with over 25 years of experience in global markets such as the Middle East and Asia Pacific, besides covering India and SAARC region. He is currently the Managing Director of Palo Alto Networks for India and SAARC as part of his mandate. Anil is responsible for driving profitable growth across the service provider, enterprise and commercial lines of business through a highly leveraged channels partnership model. So please welcome Mr. Anil Bhasin. Yes, I think we could put our hands together. That would wake us up faster, because the next session is going to be very, very interactive. I guess, Mr. Singh? Our next panelist is Mr. Shyamol B. Das, Head of Technology, CEO, BRAC Bank Limited, BRAC IT Services Limited. An IT governance professional with the expertise in the domains of information technology and information security management. The expertise also extends around strategy and planning, as well as on embedding the information risk function within organization's structure. Please do welcome Mr. Shyamol B. Das. Our third panelist for this afternoon is Mr. Partha Sengupta, Vice President, IT Services, ITC Infotech India Limited. Partha Sengupta has more than 20 years of industry experience in managing diverse IT solutions for various business verticals like banking and finance, stock exchange, automobiles, ITES, FMCG, manufacturing, consulting firms, etc. Mr. Sengupta heads IT shared services for ITC that runs key business applications for various business verticals. Please welcome Mr. Partha Sengupta. And I hand the session over to Mr. Singh. Okay, Mr. Singh. Okay, he has come in. I was told he hasn't yet come in. Okay. And our fourth panelist for this afternoon, he's just come in, I guess, Mr. Dheeshjith VG. Chief Information Officer, Member of the Board, Infosys Australia, Infosys Limited. Dheeshjith VG is the Chief Information Officer of Infosys and is responsible for defining and implementing the IT strategy for the organization, guided by Infosys business strategy to enable revenue growth, cost optimization, and innovation at the workplace. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on the stage Mr. Dheeshjith VG.
Good afternoon, everybody, once again. Thank you, panelists. So, very interesting topic, right? How do you get your board ready to respond to a cyber attack? So, before we get into the question-answer mode, I'd just like you to, probably spend just 2 minutes. How does your board react to cybersecurity incidents? Incidents are happening day in and day out. We can't escape the incidents, right? What's your board's first reaction to cybersecurity incidents? Anil, we'll start with you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so maybe the wrong question to me, because I come from the cybersecurity company. My board is very sensitive, right? So we obviously take this very seriously. The one thing that our CEO says all the time, what keeps him awake at night is, what if we got breached as Palo Alto Networks? That's food for thought, right? Here we are trying to talk about how we protect the world, how do we make the digital life, the whole experience that you all have safe for use. So it has a lot of pressure. So I think just on what he says, for us, security is not a product, it is an approach. and it integrates people, process, and technology. Right? You cannot replace either of the three. It has to be an integration, amalgamation of these three. What is also important is, as far as we are concerned as a company, our vision is to make digital life safe for use. Now that's an enormous pressure coming on to us. Essentially what we are trying to do is figure out any access provided by a user using a device of his choice without compromising his digital freedom, giving him access to any application of any type, business, social, encrypted or proprietary, has to be made safe for use. So that's the whole idea that we are driving.
Thanks, Anil. I think two interesting key takeaways that I took. CEO awake at night thinking about cyber security. And then we'll go around the panel and also talk to our eminent people sitting here. Do their CEOs or at least the board also think about cyber security in the same manner? And the second one is, making digital life secure. Very, very important. Today, almost all of us sitting here have at least a parallel digital life running, right? And how are we safe in that life? Thank you, Anil. Shyamol, coming from a place which is like the hotbed of cybersecurity incidents these days, I would be most interested in knowing your perspective.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me clearly. So I come from Bangladesh actually, and then you know that as Jaspreet mentioned, it's a hot topic in Bangladesh about cybersecurity and how you take action about it. I'll just go a bit back around 2005 or 6 while I was to practice information security in England, and then I came back to Bangladesh in the year 2005. And then I used to talk about information. Cybersecurity I will talk a bit later. First I'll talk about information security, how they used to look at it. When I used to tell my CEO, it's information security. Is it coming from IT? Is it something like that? I used to say, just secure your assets. You secure your information assets. Okay, think about it. What to do about it? Oh. So as it gradually passed, I came up to 2008. I was able to set up a department of IT security and quality, which would cover actually a bit of security and then the quality of the systems, if it's performing to our expected level. By the year 2009, actually 10, we were able to set up a information security department. Again, that was up to the management level. But actually, when we go to the board and all, they said, "Is there a requirement of this?" Yes, because it was a regulatory requirement. So then, we came up to our information security department. So now, after 6 years, when actually that incident happened in Bangladesh, which is a global news, I don't have to tell all of you, you all know about it. Fortunately, I sometimes represent technology and security to the board, and the first thing the board asked, what happened to Bangladesh Bank is, are we secure? Have you done something? And when 5 years back, while it was very difficult for me to even put a budget for a small tool, now they tell me, why don't you call all these big fours or top big companies and get an assessment of our system? So, that is the thing I'm talking about, Jaspreet. So, the landscape has completely changed in Bangladesh. Yes, we are very lucky to be a neighbor of India. While as I was just discussing with one of my distinguished panelists that we are very lucky because as what West practices, probably you adopt some of those. While we look at up to you, you practice something, we leapfrog, get it and implement it. So what takes you probably 3 to 5 years, it takes us 6 months to 1 year. So we are very lucky. So in terms of cyber security, yes, we have learned the hard way, but again, we follow our neighbor country. So that's how the board looks at it. And whenever we go to them, they say, what's happening in the Indian banks? Are you following that? So that's all I have to say about how the board thinks.
Thank you, Shyamol. And I've in my professional services career, I've been to board meetings where I was expected to present around cyber security, and somehow the board meetings 3 to 4 years ago ended without us getting any time. They're saying, IT security, sorry, today we ran out of time. Let's do it in the next board meeting after 6 months or after a quarter. And now the scene has totally changed. Cyber security is probably the first 2-3 topics in the agenda that every board is discussing. But I liked what your CEO said 10 years ago. We'll think about it. Yeah, we used to get such responses. Dheeshjith, thanks. I know you had a problem. What are you seeing in your organization? How easy it is to get access to the board?
Yeah, I think as a technology company with number of board members who are technologists, it's much more easier actually.
Okay.
So internally we don't have a problem because they will keep on advising us in that sense. But I think my around 29 years I actually spent in business actually. I think my experience has been with respect to other companies who are not in the technology business altogether. The first question people say that where are the security guys if there is an attack, right? I thought we spent enough money last year. What went wrong? These are a kind of typical questions, IT heads and CIOs and CISOs will get asked at. But I think, times are changing now. I think people are having realization that, these are also serious things. It is, many companies today consider the cyber attack is closer to terrorism. It's a very, very different actually. I think people are coming to that because it is very easy to get a company built over 30, 40 years. It can get destroyed very quickly.
Super.
So I think that level of awareness is coming to people right now. I think that's a
Thank you. Thank you. I think two super points. It takes 30 odd years to build a decent organization, and a matter of seconds that entire organization can be wiped out. And I like your question even better. Where are the security guys? And I hope it's not the physical security guys we're talking about. Right, perfect. Partha.
We are an organization having business in FMCG, hospitality, travel, retail, etc. It's a conglomerate. There's one business which we do not have in our overall portfolio, which is the banking business. So, that if you talk about security, the base security which is there supposed to be there where the money lies, which is with the banking guys. So the direction which I get from the board, like by some people and governance committees and all, when you benchmark with a bank, nobody less than a bank. You're not going to compare yourself with a manufacturing company. You're not going to compare yourself with a retail or some other verticals. If you would like to benchmark, please benchmark yourself with a bank, not anything less than that. That gives a clear indication on the direction that the seriousness of information security within our internal organization.
Super. So, a question to the audience, right? We would like you to also get involved. If there is a cyber security incident in your organization, in your respective organization, who would you call first? Who's the first person whom you will call? Answers? Yeah? Shyamol.
First, I'll try to contain the incident.
Who's the first person you will call? You'll probably have to inform somebody. I know we'll do incident response, try and contain, etc. But I am the reporter of Times of India. I give you a call saying, I have all your data and I keep the phone. Give me $20 million. Who is the first person in your organization who will get called?
Given the nature of the incident that we just spoke of,
Okay.
I think containing the incident at the communication level would be more important.
Okay.
So I think definitely giving a call to the spokesman or someone who represents the company in the public space.
That's the first person. Okay.
Very important.
Any others? Any others? Yeah.
So the hacker person will try to reach the CEO first.
Who will you call? Suppose you get a call in saying I call you and say I have all the data records.
I will call the CISO.
You will call the CISO. Anybody else? Guys, so many organizations sitting here.
And the CISO and the head of the department.
Head of?
The head of the department, because I belong to the security department.
You will call the head of the department. Okay.
So ours is
Anybody else?
mature organization.
Superb. Thanks. Anybody else? Information security manager. Somebody from this side. Who will you call? So what we did was we played this game with about 100 top CEOs in India. Sitting in a room like this, I moderating the entire session and asking, who's the first person you will call? And believe me, we got 100 different answers. Somebody saying, I'll call my head of HR. Somebody saying, I'll call my head of legal. Somebody saying, I'll call my head of corporate communication. That is what incident response is. People in their own organizations don't know whom they want to call. That's the seriousness of cyber security in an organization. Forget the board. And that's why we are discussing how do we get the board to respond. And I like Partha's point, which is, we are not a bank. I go into so many audit committee or board of director meetings where they say, what do we have to lose? We are not online, we are not a bank, we are not a telecom operator. What kind of data can we lose? What is the maximum damage? But like this is rightly said, the maximum damage you don't even know. Your entire organization today can be wiped out. There was a small incident with an organization that offered VSAT services in south of India. A small cybersecurity incident. 3 years ago, 2013, 3 years ago. Today that organization is not in existence. Gone. Closed. That is the seriousness of a cyber attack. Well, thanks. So this is now coming back to you. What role do you think the board should play in cyber readiness of a company? I mean, does the board need to play any role? I don't think so.
Yeah, otherwise they should not be the board actually.
Okay.
So I think my view is very clear. I think there must be a cyber security committee in the board. It has to be led by a board member, no less than a board member. It has to be a board member. One of the most important aspects is that he or she have to create a team in the executive leadership. It has to be a senior person in that group, really speaking. And board is not going to come up with vision, strategies and stuff like that actually. It has to be done by the executive leadership. But board will do two things. They have to really look at, review two things. One is that look at whether this particular company got enough ammunition to block any kind of attack. That is protect, defense. The second thing is, in case of an attack, how ready these people are to recover from that. These are two important aspects they have to look at actually.
Superb. I picked up 2 points. Defense. And first I protect myself and then I recover.
Whatever I do,
I need to come back.
Be attack, but how can I recover very fast in case of an attack?
How can I limit the damage?
Right.
Perfect.
That's what. And the other aspect is that, which is very extremely important in my opinion, you have to create a culture in your organization. Security culture. If you look at the security, we can say it is a good or bad, it is all determined or depending on the weakest link in the chain. That is all your employees, your vendor partners, everybody is involved in that actually. So in that sense, if there is some leakage somewhere, there is a smaller issue, it can lead to major issue actually. So security is truly everybody's responsibility. And if you look at the topic of security, it creates all kinds of inconvenience. Anybody talk about security outside, they will always say, oh man, it is a painful process. It is very hard to make it pleasurable, but at least make it painless. If you are able to create a good culture in the organization, everybody will help secure the company, secure themselves as well as secure everybody. And that's a very important aspect, creating a culture. That is other board responsibility. There are many more of that kind of speaking. But I think if you are able to encourage and enable a team out there in the company and does this basic thing, I think that it's going to, then the rest of the team in the executive leadership will take it up actually.
Superb. I think excellent point around the weakest link in the organization can be as exposed and can cause as much damage as probably your strongest point in that organization. And the second point which I really liked about is about the culture. How do you create a culture of awareness in the organization? For all you know, you might have the best tools and technologies implemented, but your security guard, after taking the visitor register, just keeps it unlocked or unattended, right? So you can be prone to an attack from there. So, thank you. Sure, please, Anil, go ahead.
I think the first point really is at a board level there has to be a decision of whether security is a tactical necessity or a strategic imperative. But I think that sets the board to go into a direction. Tactical necessity is, compliance, yes, we go to the regulator, we comply, we are done and that's it, right? The strategic imperative has a direct impact on my business in the sense of ownership, right? I link back to the question that you asked, who's the first person that you call? And I'll narrate a small incident. I think most of you probably have heard about Target. We can talk about it freely. When Target was hacked, everybody knows that the CEO lost his job and that became frontline news, right? How many of you actually remember, and I probably think the figure was, when Target was hacked, the market cap went down by $20 billion. For me, that was the real news. A CEO doesn't cost $20 billion, right? And I'm sure that the board took notice of that because that was a direct reputational brand impact, right? 20 billion is not a small amount for you to recover back. So I think when you look at it from a strategic imperative standpoint, then it's a very different ballgame versus, the point that it's a tactical necessity, it's point number 6 on my agenda, we are it. The other thing, does the board see security as somebody else's problem or is it our problem? I think if it becomes our problem, then the CIO, CISO, whatever, they are just, a part in the entire process of creating a culture which I completely agree with. But the culture needs to be practiced and practiced across. And this is why I say people, process and technology have to be integrated. You can't separate the three.
I like the point about, compliances. If I only do my compliances, what's wrong with that? Yeah?
Yeah, so think of any company. First of all, there are 3 irreversible trends. I cannot change that for any organization. Globalization, will it ever go back? No. Digitization, will it ever go back? No. Mobility, which will ever go back? No. Right? If I'm looking into this and I'm looking at IoT already coming in, what choices do I have as an organization? Just to be compliant or to be ready to adopt the future wherein I as a user have digital freedom, bringing my own device, behaving individually after 6 o'clock, but as a corporate citizen from 9 to 6, using a device of my choice, going to applications during office hours to what the company wants me, but will after office hours go to applications that I want to access. The lines are blurring, right? So in that world, and you kind of fast forward this 5 years, just saying I am compliant is not going to help, right? So we are already into a hybrid model where you have on-premise and cloud already coexisting. And security has to be consistent. It has to be embedded and it has to be right at the forefront. And I'll just rest my case by saying, think of you building the best house. What's the lock? If it's valuable to you, what's the lock and the price of the lock you decide. You can choose to buy a 2 rupee 50 paise Godrej lock and you think I'm crazy, or you'll go for the most sophisticated. It's really the value that you think it's there inside on the basis of which you decide security. So compliance, just having compliance, I'm not sure.
Superb. Excellent example again. Thanks, Anil. I'll just come to you just once again. And to this point, we all do compliances, right? And we think of compliances as the end point. Rather, you should think as compliance as the starting point. And again, another beautiful message which said, kindly look at what is the information that you're trying to protect. Right. I'll just come back to you just 1 minute. Partha, do you think incident response is equally important, right? Everybody will get hacked. So what are the kind of investigation mechanisms that you would have put in place which can respond to a sophisticated cyber attack?
Okay, so I'll go back to Mr. Anil Bhasin. He gave an example of how Target CEO was fired for losing so many billion of stocks value from the market. So that while people are losing that kind of money, CEO, forget about CEO and CISO, CEO is getting fired. I'll go back to another example, like since you're talking about the preparedness, what kind of preparedness we are having is an organization to protect that. So JP Morgan, 2014, that one of the biggest attack on American bank. and 85 million accounts were stolen from JP Morgan. So what has happened? Nobody lost job, first of all. Within next 1 year, that 4% who were actually instrumental in doing this attack on JP Morgan was behind the bar. So these are the two different facts, and it shows there are matured processes and practices are available around JP Morgan, which actually helped them to tide over that situation. So hence my answer is yes and no. So no in case of target kind of a company, yes in case of an JP Morgan kind of an organization. But if you find it out, there is one common factor in both these groups, is both of them got compromised. Number one. Number two, in the number of people working in JP Morgan's security team is 1,000 people working as a part of their security team. Despite that, despite having some strong processes, they were compromised. So since it is natural, people will get compromised. So there are two important area I would like to bring into to the notice of that the people who are there within this group. And I will introduce two words. One is very important words, which is we know all those words. One is DFI, Digital Forensic Investigation. Number two word is incident response. Incident response is a word which is known to us. If server goes down, how do you respond? How do you bring back the server, etc., etc. That was known to us for a long time. Now, people are talking about incident responses like because of cybersecurity attack which is happening from outside. They'll give an example how to recover from that. I'll give you an example. 1 month before, somebody has planted one program inside my website and all. This is there for last 1 month. They have planted that same code every day and all, and it is supposed to execute on 10th of February. Say, so on 10th of February, I run my program. It starts doing a malfunctioning and says that you are hacked. I go back, I restore from the backup. Again the same problem. I go back, restore from the attack, again the same problem. How do you handle such situation? So you really need skills, which is like who will be able to do malware re-engineering, who will be able to understand and think that how that malware has worked and compromise your system. Based on that, you will be able to rectify. Because otherwise, your recovery time from a disrupted business will go for a toss. It can actually, people are telling it can go beyond 2 months. You may lose 2 months of data by 2020 if you are really attacked and compromised. 2 months before data, if you get for an online business, where do we stand? Where do we stand? We'll be out of the business. So hence, this two perspective, that it is very important for us to focus on. This is one of the important area for next 2 years is going to emerge as a thought for us. One more important perspective over here I would like to spend some time is if you find it out that the kind of money which is say $1 which you are spending on security today for prevention, actually other companies are spending $10 on recovery from a security attack. So 1 rupee can go to 2 rupees. That is quite acceptable to the board. But when an incident happens, then after that when you spend 10 rupees, that will be a real problem for the board. People are today aware, hence people are today who are investing on the prevention.
Superb. Thank you. So, in a nutshell, you're talking about going out of business. You're talking about probably something like a return on investment being shown to the board on what value add cybersecurity does. It's like buying insurance, right? You really never pull out your calculator and say, if I die today, this is what the insurance premium would be. Thank you so much. Now coming back to Shyamol. Yeah. We all know what happened to Bangladesh. You spoke about the Bangladesh bank account, the bank hack fees. How does your organization now be prepared to respond to such an attack?
Before I just answer my question, I just wanted to add something to Jeet. Being technology company, the board members are IT savvy by default. But while we run a financial institution or a small company,
the board members tend to come from different, background.
Right.
So while he mentioned that the board, maybe a member of the board would take the ownership, is brilliant. It sounds brilliant in terms of your company. But while we talk about our company, some directors would be businessmen, some would be bankers, some would probably from another knowledgeable background. So it's very difficult for us to give the ownership of such kind of area, information security, which is very sensitive to any kind of board member. So I would suggest, probably it's above my pay grade, but still I can say the board needs to be formed in such a way, the companies, they need to start, actually the chairman of the board, they need to start thinking in such a way that a member who understands what is security, what is information security, how it can affect the, it's not just taking the, lead and running CIO, CISO and say, okay, do this, do that. It's easy, but then it will not be consistent. It will be a one-off job, okay, have you done this, have you done this, just ticking off the checklist. So my suggestion would be to, in terms of while a board is formed, to ensure a person with a IT background, having definitely information security background, will add value, and that will drive the information security like anything. That's all I wanted to just add to this thing. Now coming back to your question of how my organization is. As I mentioned that in Bangladesh, I would say now banks are preparing themselves, while in terms of my organization, I started from 2005, right, I told you. So it was, we could create the awareness what is of information security, and then comes the cyber security. So people knew what is the reason behind changing their password. It's not that, some people used to get annoyed, let's say the business people, to come and say, why do I have to change my password every 30 days, every 45 days? Why can't I have it for 6 months? So we could establish those practices. I'll just give you a very basic example. So when this happened, our organization, I would say, I don't know, because even everybody sitting in this room do not know if his organization is getting attacked now, at this moment. So I wouldn't say I am protected, but I would say we knew if this happens, what to do. From the board, as I said, that the direction wasn't there, that you should have a secure policy, you have devices and all these things. But the board mentioned in terms of compliance. Now coming back to what Anil added up, compliance must be there. So how the compliance helped us? Because it came from our regulators. You want to add something?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So that also helped us to create some background to protect ourselves. Yes, our organization, my organization would be, I would say, ready in terms of taking the shock and what to do next. While in Bangladesh, in terms of a totality, maybe not all organizations are ready.
Okay. So, very, very interesting point made. His organization is prepared to take the shock. Superb. And very strong step. Superb. And the second point that I liked was, and I like to, throw it open to the audience on this point. You mentioned about dashboards. How many of us sitting here in this room report something back to our board on a monthly basis, quarterly basis on security KPIs? How many of us? Just a show of hands. Superb. I see a lot of hands going out. I was speaking to a CIO about 2 weeks ago, and the person said, I send monthly dashboards to the board on security KPIs. He said, but I'm not getting any funding. So you know what I did? I asked him. He said, 3 months ago, I stopped sending any KPIs to the board. And he said, you know what? I said, what? He said, nobody asked me any question. Nobody came back to me. That's the importance that boards give to cybersecurity, and the point about the boards needing to understand why it's very, very important to know what cybersecurity is all about. Thank you. Question to Jeet and then to Partha. Both of you run organizations which depend on a lot of third parties, a lot of shared services providers, etc. How do you manage their security portfolios?
I think anybody who work with us have to be like us. What does it mean is that all the security procedure we follow, we always ensure that those people also follow in the same fashion. For example, everybody joined the company as a contractor had to go through a security quiz. There is a training program for them and do that because that's the only way we can onboard people. So that's the one aspect of it actually. Otherwise, we always look at these companies we are going to work with and look at what are the policies they have. Do they implement it properly? Do they have a set of people who are accountable and responsible? We also look at do they do a drill? Do they also engage third party for any kind of audit, etc. These are kinds of things we actually check it and to ensure that these are the right kind of people. But at the end of the day, we will actually look at ensuring that they follow our process. Other aspect is that we are also very cautious in giving the level of access to people. Give only access which is needed, only for the duration needed. That's a very important aspect actually. There must be log of everything. At least in the later point of time, we should be able to go back and do a right level of forensic and come up with an appropriate action plan in case there is some breach happening. So I think the way we look at our subcontractors or any other contracting company is like one of us. We don't consider them to be different citizens. They are like us. At the end of the day, what we offer to them is that a good security practice we build over a period of time. And these guys also go back from our company to other companies who also would have learned many security processes, policies, and so on and so forth. It's a value add in that sense. That's
Superb. So you're saying what we have and what we expect them to have, there should not be a huge gap, number one. Second, you mentioned about the kind of access. We were part of an organization where there was some incident. We were doing the investigation for that incident, the incident response piece. And we saw that the entire super user database access was actually given to that subcontractor, whereas he had no purpose having super user access in the first place. So that's a very important point. Yes, Partha.
See, first to start with what question you asked to tell that in our case, 70% of the cases will be running with virtual desktop. So that, that risk is out of, we don't want to get into that of what they are doing. If they do it through virtual desktop only. Number one. Number two, I would like to bring in one perspective that, that you are talking about third-party vendors and all. So I would like to get into that whenever, so today for any balance sheet today, who signs the balance sheet today along with my board of director, finance director and all, there is statutory auditor of the company who also signs the balance sheet. What is the purpose of signing a balance sheet? There is a reasonable, satisfactory practices, financial processes are followed within the company. It is to certify that they have followed, checked and verified. Now, we are talking about a financial auditor signing the balance sheet and they are saying that my internal organization, my own people are following right financial processes. Now, let's change the threat landscape. I am now today getting into a threat landscape which is coming from outside. And there are internal threats are also there. People don't even know they are creating imposing risk on the organization. We are living in such world when we need to get a comfort that everything is right or wrong. Who will be able to do that? Who will be able to do malware analysis? Who will be able to do memory remapping? Who will be able to do reverse engineering? Who will be able to identify and certify? And there are people who is required by 2020 in my belief, along with stat auditor, there will be cyber security auditor who has to sign the balance sheet, along with financial auditor who should sign the balance sheet and tell that I have checked and verified the cyber security processes incorporated within the organization is reasonably acceptable for the shareholder of the company. Otherwise, today I'm investing just looking at, statutory auditor, who is the guy who has signed. People like you have signed the stat audit and all. I will do an investment on that company. Tomorrow it may get bankrupt just because there is some cyber attack happens to the company. So that balance sheet has got no value. Who is signing with the reasonable practice? So this is important for us to ensure, incorporate within our board processes that cybersecurity auditors are there who are signing my balance sheet by giving a confidence to my stakeholder and shareholder that the reasonable processes and practices are followed within the company.
Thank you, Partha. You made me very, very happy. Very radical thought. Cybersecurity auditors signing balance sheet by 2020. Thank you. Anil, you mentioned this about probably just a brief, but you mentioned about not looking at tactical security, but going much at a strategic level. In your interaction with various organizations, does it really happen? To probably put it better, do you think when the board decides the next 3 years, 5 years business plan, is IT or security a key part of that entire process, or are we still talking about tactical level security?
It depends on the maturity of the organization. I think technology-oriented companies are definitely doing that because that's part of business. So somebody like an Infosys would do that naturally because it has a direct correlation with the business impact that you can measure. So that is there. In others, it's slowly coming up the curve. So sometimes they say, you learn from the mistakes of others. So you don't have to go through the same pain that others have done, much like what my friend over here is talking about. But essentially, I think the 5 questions that are being asked for sure is, know the value of your data. This is a very tricky question, right? What is the value of my data? It's very difficult. I don't know what's the right answer because, again, if I ask everybody in this room, you have different answers to what's the value you're putting for the data that you have. It basically means the digital asset that you own. What's the value? Second is, what's the location of that data? Where does that data reside? That's a tricky one. Third is, who has access to that data? Right? Is it just me, my supply chain? Fourth, whoever has access, how is it that you're protecting that data? Right? And then who is actually responsible for protecting that data? Goes back to the first question. If I have a cyber attack, who's the first person? So today I think these are the questions that are being asked at the board level, or they're being educated about it. If you don't have answers to these 5 questions, then I think you're still going to evolve into a more maturity curve. If you have answer to these 5 questions, I bet that organizational is reasonably safe. When I say reasonably safe, I'm looking at prevention, not remediation. I think clearly, there are just 2 architectures at a boardroom level where you are either promoting remediation, which basically means you are convinced I'll be breached and I'll have to do something about it, right? As a security OEM, I'm not professing that you have a silver bullet that your breaches will stop. Never. The question is, what's the bar you're raising as an organization? Is it very high or very low? So I use this, 9/11 example. Can the President of America ever say that we'll never have a repeat of 9/11? Probably not. But after 9/11, what has America done to make sure that the security has gone high? They revamped the entire thing. So a second 9/11 doesn't happen, right? So it's the bar that you raise to frustrate the adversary. So I think to me, the question is, at a boardroom level, if we are driving this conversation proactively and we are getting the empowerment, yes, then I think we are going to a safe direction. If not, then I think it's more education that's required.
Superb. I think, we are probably it's getting too interesting, like from auditor signing balance sheet to will a 9/11 ever happen? Shyamol, you've been in the thick of all of this, right? Probably no board would have asked as many questions in the last 6 months as your board. So, suppose I'm one of your board members, I ask you, Shyamol, are we covered against any kind of data leakage, data loss, or rogue employees? Reactions?
A very tough question, actually.
I'm the board.
Yeah, understood. So I can't tell that to you that it's a tough question, but I'll be definitely start to sweat in that room. Because as I said that even we have the best solution, let's say the security solution or even the security devices, appliances, tools, everything. Still at this moment, even I would ask Mr. Anil here, by putting the best Palo Alto solution, can you ensure me that I will not be attacked? So my answer would be to my board member, first of all, is 99%. And he'll ask me, why not 100%? Because I will always say, sir, nobody can give you 100%. But what is that 99%? See, I just give you a simple example. We do security survey in our organization. We send these emails, just what we discussed, like phishing site or, rogue emails, and saying that, okay, let's see who replies back. So while our security team has done that, I asked them one question, how did you do that? How did you do that? How did you do the survey? They said, sir, we have done sample basis. I said, why did you do sample basis? Just to understand if people know about it? Few people know about it? See, if you have 5,000 employees and you have done 4,999, you are in problem. Because security starts with that 1%. It could be only 1%. And it's not always outsiders. We all know it, right? It's always insiders. The insiders are the biggest threat. Either intentionally or unintentionally. So, going back to the question of my board, I can always answer that I am not, 100% secure. So what we need to do is that we need to have a very strict compliance, security as a practice, for which, as I am saying that employees knows that there is an email saying that don't share your password. It's not that. You have to practice it. So if we really do all those things, then probably we will reach 99%, beside all our device and tools, but not 100%.
Right.
So
thank you. Superb, superb points on reaching 99%, but never reaching 100%. It's like security tools. You mentioned about putting security tools, right? It's like going for a bypass surgery. After going for the bypass surgery, if you still don't alter your lifestyle, that entire process of putting a different artery in place will not do anything to your body, right? You have to put in processes in place. You have to change your entire lifestyle. That will make it much more secure. Yes, Chief, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think we provide security services to our clients around the world, even in India. And we also use the same set of people to look at ourselves, our systems, processes, etc. But we still employ companies like your company, EY, KPMG, etc. to come and audit us on our systems. Because we always look at there should be an independent party looking at you. There is no way you can even reach anywhere near 99. I don't even know 99. I don't even believe 99. It will be much lower than that actually. I think the thing is that whatever we try, there could be another loophole. There could be some other vulnerability actually. I think we should always be concerned about that, maybe worried about that, maybe that is good for you really. Look at from other's angle, right? Maybe they'll be able to find something else actually. I think you should start correcting. See, one is that if you have you talk about compliance actually. Compliance is the last item. The whole world is collapsed. After that only compliance is going to come anywhere in the world. Any place, for example, if you look at the data privacy laws in Europe, that has come several years later actually. If you are truly legal, ethical, fair, and etc., you will actually raise the bar ahead of time. So security is also exactly like that. One other aspect is that you should always get experts. Yeah? You might have experts in your own organization, but always look for people from outside. It is not a small thing. If you consider this to be a small little thing, then I think you may not run your company for long enough actually. Very clear. You need experts. We talked about bypass surgery, cardiac. You don't actually go to your MBBS doctor to do some of this stuff actually. You do at a very low level. After that, you have to go to an expert. These are very complicated stuff. So you need expert help tools and so on and so forth. That is the only way you can actually come out of this issue. You look at any country got a military. Why are they spending time and money on the military actually? Because there will be attack. You have to protect your company, you have to protect your country. So similarly, I think this is also exactly in the same fashion. In an interconnected world, this is absolutely essential for you. I think that's how
perfect. Thank you. Need of experts being the need of the hour. Partha, you in your introduction mentioned the various diverse business functions that your esteemed organization has business, right? And we all are going through digital transformation. How is that digital transformation putting extra pressure on the cybersecurity initiatives that you are trying to take?
First of all, that those digital initiatives, so the word digital, this initially, there is 2 to 3 things. We cannot say no to that. One is mobility, we cannot say no to that. As Anil was telling, we said digitalization, we cannot say no to that. Number 3, globalization, Anil said that we cannot say no to that. So, since we are talking digitalization, since we cannot say no to that, it is putting enormous pressure back into the way the transactions are happening. Today, the enterprise architecture which was there, which got evolved within, say, 2003, 2004, getting changed drastically because of social, mobile, analytics and cloud integration. Along with that, a lot of businesses are communicating directly with my businesses, which we thought it will be only B2C. Now it is because of so much of proliferation of B2B, the communications are happening. And we cannot rely on when releasing those, each and every such connection, the security guys are doing due diligence heavily. It is unsustainable model. As a model, it is unsustainable. Each transactions, each B2B integration, you cannot do security due diligence. Today, B2B integrations are inevitable. If you are into hospitality industry, you will connect with a lot of global hospitality vendors who will provide customers to you. So, forget about your own dealer and distributor, which is a known thing which you can manage effectively because it's your own dealers and distributors. But otherwise, you will be working with a lot of global partners. So, you need to have a separate framework. This is the need of the hour, which we are, last 1 year we put in constant focus to come up with a new enterprise architecture. The enterprise architecture is scalable and enough open to integrate such global B2B partners. Along with that, I will follow a reasonable and contemporary security practice, because that question of that 100% or a 99% or a 99.9, which is which I will not be able to defend. Well, why not 99.99? If people ask me, but I will not be able to defend. So only thing which I can tell is that I have a reasonable and contemporary security practices which are available today. I am not talking about fancy solutions like purpose-built security solution for a specific point in problem. So ransomware is there in the market. I've got a ransomware, anti-ransomware product. If bot is there, anti-bot. If APT is there, anti-APT. Such solution may not be my, contemporary reasonable security practices, which will continue to evolve with a period of security. But as an information security team, I will continue to maintain reasonable security practices for digitalization, which is putting tremendous pressure on me in terms of new evolving security architecture, which I have to adopt within my own internal organization.
Thank you. Just 1 minute. Thanks, Partha. I think 2 key takeaways. Reasonable security practices. We will not buy whatever is the new technology coming. It's like wherever you have a small injury, you start putting small band-aids, and then the entire problem will go out of your control. And as you rightly said, this model is unsustainable. Anil.
And just to add on to what Partha said, I completely agree. So you will have to have a framework, and that framework has to be defined by, like I said, you have to make a choice whether it's remediation or prevention. Now, obviously, everybody in the room will say, why is he even talking remediation? But trust me when I say this, the approach today, and OEMs like us are to blame. What we try and do is talk to you about a product for a specific problem, highlighting features, functionalities, which we then force fit in your existing environment, and knowing fully well that you will have to do a remediation, in which case I'm anyways covered, because I don't give you an outcome for what I'm selling, right? Let's do the reverse of this. If prevention is an outcome, security is an outcome, right? If prevention is an outcome, how do we then define what is the architecture required for that prevention? In that architecture, what technologies will be played from an automation and integration standpoint? And then we go to which product has that automation integration fitting into that architecture that gives me prevention. Now, in all of this, you have to come up with an ecosystem that's fairly open, must talk to each other, because OEMs don't like to talk to each other, right? And therefore, you will have to define this architecture, reverse engineering, if you want an outcome. Otherwise, it will always be a product for a specific issue, not looking at your enterprise. It will always address a specific issue. And I think that's where I see a big change coming in, mostly from players like you who are saying, what is security? Outcome driven? If it is outcome driven, this is the approach. So when you talk of the framework, this is what I see a lot of. And by the way, just the last point, this awareness has gone to the next level. So for the first time, US actually has a separate command, which is outside of the three Army, Navy, and Air Force. They actually have a cyber security command itself, right? So I'm just letting you know that people are looking at that. So I'm just saying that if you really want, I think somebody made this statement. I think you said this. It is almost coming to a point where you have to treat it like terrorism. And the question you have to ask, if you have to protect your boundaries, which you will you place a commander or a constable? Both define security. Constable internally in this city is still security for us, and commander at the border is still security. However, the state of readiness, preparedness, and the skills are very different. So you got to define within your organization, do you need a commando or do you need a constable, right? And then you have to do the reverse engineering part. This is coming from the experience talking to more than 300 CIOs. You know why? The one question that every CIO struggles to answer is, and I ask this, sir, do you know what's running on the network, both legitimate or otherwise? Everything that's running on the network, do you know that?
Interesting point on what's running in my network. Last question to you, Shyamol, before we do the conclusion. How important do you think is the role of government and regulators in putting a cyber security framework in place? Because we've spoken about point-in solutions. Partha mentioned not to go for it. Anil mentioned look at architecture level. Jeet mentioned having a holistic framework which looks at your entire organization in place. Now, when all this culminates, how does government or other regulatory bodies play a role?
Before I answer that, I just want to ask Anil a question. Anil, Palo Alto or even Infosys, a company like yours, you mentioned about the framework. See, as I said, the phishing attack, this attack, and many attacks are coming. We are always prepared for this, but we don't know what's happening tomorrow. So what we always say is the other side is smarter than us. So does this framework to be designed would require white hat and black hat, what kind of hackers? Or such kind of knowledge to be developed in that framework? Because otherwise, the framework that I developed today, I really don't know if that is the right framework tomorrow.
Super.
So how do you, yeah. So if probably we can discuss about it later.
Yep.
So going back to that, so yeah, exactly.
It has to be dynamic. See, today what risks exist? Nobody before 9/11 knew that flying planes could cause so much damage. Till about 26th of December 2004, nobody knew tsunami was such a big threat, right? All the viruses, malwares, phishing attacks, as they keep on evolving, your security architecture has to keep on evolving. But on the end, keeping an eye on what is it that you are trying to protect. your boundaries. It's very, very important to define your boundaries also. It's a dynamic ecosystem. Business is not standstill. It's not static, right? Yeah.
Going back to your question now, in terms of regulators and government, how to help, definitely, in our country, it's been driven from the regulators actually. And in the recent and in the current times, after the incident, not even after, just before that also, government has been taking a lot of initiatives. So the framework, again, but there are a lot of gaps while we do that. I'm not talking about Bangladesh, I don't know if it's happening in India. Or why do you make a framework or you design a framework? Are you really involving all the parties? See, you see, sometimes the framework would be, in certain cases, I wouldn't say my country, your country, whoever, I'm just talking in general.
Yeah.
While we design the framework, sometimes what we do, we call consultants, with due respect. We call consultants, we call different specialists from the market and say, can you design it for us? So they design in their way. What happens? We design it and we just feed it to everybody and say, this is what you should practice. Have we really involved them? So, in such cases where I have seen the regulators and government, instead of actually taking a concerted effort, taking input from everybody, yes, definitely the consultants, the industry experts will design it. But how each of these areas, each of the departments, each of the ministries, each of the business sector, how they're interacting with each other, those are very important. I'll just give you a very simple example in my country, what happened. In internet banking, we send, OTPs. So, while do you do the transaction? So we have our telecom regulators, then we have our Bangladesh central bank regulators. So we have done that OTP. It's just one-off solution. Let's say regulator said you have to do it. We've done it. But what is the security breach? You can actually change the scene. Just impersonate somebody. Go and say I'm Jaspreet. This is my address. Impersonate. Take the SIM. Put it. Where does the OTP come?
To your new number.
So what happened actually? Where is the gap? We have practiced something. But was that a proper framework that we designed? We didn't. So I would like to conclude by saying this, that while we do the framework or we design the framework, it's not only the industry experts. It must be each of the stakeholders must put their input, must devise their policies, must sync the policies together. And then the information security, cyber security will be properly protected. Then there will be no gaps. And that's how the regulators, government can help us. And it should be driven from them, but it must be engaged. It must be formed or devised or designed through enabling everybody, taking input from everybody.
Super.
That's how I look at it.
Super. Thank you. Partha, we'll start in the reverse order. Last 1 minute. If you were to go and tell your board one thing about cyber security, what would that be?
Appoint a cybersecurity advisor.
Appoint a cybersecurity advisor. Okay.
So he should be part of you, and quarterly that cybersecurity advisor will report you to the health of the cybersecurity of the organization. So hence, it is not that that your own internal people talking about that. It is an external people who brings in the knowledge of multiple thousand other customers and domain knowledge about your kind of a company and giving you the status reporting and where do you stand, whether you are contemporary or not. If that is there, then there will not be any gap in terms of their mind expecting what kind of insecurity and today what we are having. If somebody third party can talk to them, that will be better.
Thank you so much, Partha. Jeet.
This is an out-of-syllabus question for me. I think
extra mark.
There is nothing much we can. I can actually go back and talk to my technology board members, really speaking. Actually, they themselves are coming up with ideas and suggestions and stuff like that. But I think it's a very important from the IT community to go and advise their boards I think that is what we should be doing.
Advise
Any
the board.
company really speaking advice to and these are the issues if you do not do this. And these are serious businesses. If you do not do that, these are the implications. Are you ready to take it up? I think that is what you have to do.
Superb. Thanks. Shyamol. If you have one line or 1 minute to talk to your board on cyber security, what would be your advice to them?
I knew the question was, I made you repeat again. Do you think 1 minute is enough for us to say cybersecurity?
Yeah. A lot of time. You're lucky. See, I started by saying about 3-4 years ago, we were used to wait for 4-5 hours even for a 10-minute cybersecurity discussion with the board. And sometimes they would say, our agenda is complete or we don't have time, let's meet next quarter. But the times are changing. Cybersecurity is now the topmost agenda in any board meeting that we go to.
See, that is where I am saying that if I finish in 1 minute, then we are doing the usual thing that we used to do.
Superb. I wanted to bring this
We
point
need
out.
to make it a topic where a single day board meeting should happen.
Superb.
And that's how changes will come. If the board doesn't own it, it should not be like, okay, what happened? Okay, these are the numbers. Okay, what is the loss? 40 million. Okay, fine. Okay, put this thing. Then you're finished. Then you're going back to zero.
Superb. Thank you.
It must be owned by the board, owned by the management. Talk about it. Go to the employees. Sometimes I know board members don't have time, but they need to go to the employees. They need to own. They need to say this is what is the important thing at the moment. You make a mistake, the company goes down. It's your company, you own it. I together with you own it. Why CEO should be fired? Why CTO should be fired? Why CIO should be fired? The board members should be questioned. And that is how I look at cybersecurity today.
Superb. Thank you so very much, Anil.
This is an easy one for me. Appoint Palo Alto network will solve the problem for you.
You stole my closing line. Replace Palo Alto by EY. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so very much. Just to conclude, I really had an interesting 1.5 hours.
He said, appoint Palo Alto networks, we'll help solve the problems for you. So I got you
in 1 minute.
question.
In 1 minute.
I think he wanted for me to echo this again. Thank you for reminding me.
I've had a brilliant 1.5 hours. We've spoken about what keeps the CEO awake at night. We've spoken about, we will think about it. Where are the security guards? To what we are doing, we'll ask all our contemporaries, others to follow. We've spoken about cyber security consultants signing off the balance sheet by 2020. Where is the data? Who has access to data? And finally, we've spoken about having reasonable security practices in place and, having a much more mature board that understands the importance of cyber security. Thank you so very much. We'll open it for the audience. Oh, that's great.
Hello. Yeah, this 99% security readiness reminds me of a very interesting conversation I had with my CEO a few years ago. This happened soon after, the Stuxnet attack. I represent the power sector. So those of you who are not initiated with the Stuxnet cyber attack, which happened on Iran's nuclear power plant. So this kind of, shook the board. And the CEO next day calls me and he put forward a very simple question. He said, how much do we have to invest as a company? And in return, you put it down in writing that no cyber attacks will happen. It's again that 9/11 or that 99% thing. So I told him that security is not a destination, it is a journey. So it keeps evolving. So no amount of investment that you put in today will guarantee 100% secure state of affairs inside. So he said, which means what you're suggesting is that we don't invest at all. I said, no, I'm not saying that. If you invest, it will only mitigate the risk. That's the point, I would like to share. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, very interesting discussion all of you have been having.
But I think it's all in the context of the present methods of connectivity. We have a solution which can improve your cyber security through disruptive connectivity. And I'll be very happy to share the details with all of you, share your cards.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we've already done a POC, everything's been done, and we are about to launch the product. It's going to disrupt the entire security scenario in the world. Through this disruptive.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much for the interesting discussion. But from this discussion, what I have seen that we are pushing everything to the board. But I believe nobody from board side is here. I have attended many securities seminar and all these things. Where no representative from boards are there. But I can put one question to all of you. We are pushing everything to the board because they are the owner. But are we doing justice to our side that because board has given us budget and entrusted us to secure the things on behalf of them. But if we push everything to the board, if board can do everything, then are we not avoiding our roles? Thank you.
The CIO is sitting there. I'll probably ask them to answer this question.
We are not telling board is going to do everything. We are only trying to tell it is like that there will be certain issues which is going to be there. If you are into digital business, it will get compromised. As a mind, we should be ready with that mind, and we should, as an internal team, which is an IT team within an organization, we should put all our reasonable best practice. I've been consistently trying to tell that we must put an effort to put a reasonable, consistent security practices within the organization. If we lapse there, then we are the guy who are the culprits. If even after communicating back to the division that there is some weaknesses which can actually do disruption in the way you are thinking digital business you are going to get into. If you try to do business with the modern trade business systems which is available today, if they are weakly coupled companies are there with whom you are trying to open your SAP or ERP as a channel and you still want to do that business, then there will be security advices which can go from us. Accepting that or not doing it is something which is there with the board. Today, there are bank debit card which is getting stolen. People are telling, there are remarks which is coming, how much they have stolen. Out of 1,000 ATMs, they have stolen it from only 10 ATMs. How much money I'll actually got stolen? 3 lakh rupees a day within 10 ATM, which is 30 lakh rupees. 3 crore rupees. My security investment to protect that kind of a risk will be 100 crores. So I don't mind, I don't care about it. Let it get rid of. Like I will pay it off to my customer. I will not invest on 100 crore to restructure my security. That information is important. They need to take that call. That call we will not be able to take. We are trying to tell it is important from us to intimate them. This kind of technology practices are there. There is a gap like that. Then we have to push it to the board because at the end, the decision of doing business, whether you would like to do that kind of an investment, the tech refresh which is required by the organization lies with them.
Thank you. One last question, please.
Another question.
I have one simple reply of Partha's remark is that then are we not avoiding that we have a responsibility to train our board or to educate them about the security concern of that? Is it not the responsibility of the management to educate the board about the cyber? Because we can't expect that all the board members are so much concerned about the security and everything.
Sure. The answer is, again I would like to answer it yes and no. Why we are trying to avoid communicating to the board regarding this? Because how it is going to impact within a business context is something which I know by staying within an organization. Impact within similar businesses which is there across the globe. That is known to many other people. Hence I talked about cybersecurity advisor who will be able to justify and tell. So he was talking about the stuckness issue which has happened, which has created havoc in Iran. That message which he has got today because of it was such a big bust. But there are such stuckness issues which are there in the small power plants and all, which is not known to him. So there will be some cybersecurity advisor who will tell you have heard about one, which is big enough to create a noise within the economy, which is big enough to reach your CEO of the company. But there are other small issues. There is a collective learning of such power industries where these kind of failures are there, which is they will be able to summarize and communicate effectively to the board. So he will not have any issue. Then what is the issue? Did we have that kind of a success issue which is there, which has happened in Iran? If he says, no, sir, we did not have. Is there any occurrence of such issue which has happened in the last 20 years with us? No, there is no evidence of that. He said, okay, we are secure. So then somebody who comes with that domain knowledge, these are the companies, last 20 years, and nothing happened to them. However, in last 1 year, we have seen, out of such 20 companies, 5 got compromised. Now, is it something which is alarming to you? So then thus, that we are sharing the responsibility with them. We are communicating it with as a better informed resource, and we are communicating effectively with somebody who has got knowledge about multiple other companies of similar of my business. We will be able to communicate more effectively to the board. We are not trying to avoid that. We are helping them to take better informed decisions.
I just supplement Dada's statement here. We are definitely not putting it to the board. All we are trying to say, trickle down the ownership. Most of the board members come and ask you, how much money I made over here? What is the business, how much money, profit that business made? How much is the revenue there? All we want the board to ask, you bought that cybersecurity solution. What is the outcome of that? Is that really giving us, helping us? That's all. If they do that, then it trickles down to CISO, CIO, CTO, whoever. He trickles down to the people. So it becomes a practice. If that ownership is taken by the board, that's how information security needs to be driven. Definitely, see, at the end of the day, you all are working. See, most of us, actually, we are trying our best. Okay, protect here, protect there, protect this. Fine. But when it's driven, when it's a team effort, see, board member is also a member of the team. We have to look at it. It's not that they are owner and they just sit there. They need to take the ownership. I believe if they take the ownership, that's all we are saying. We are not putting it on them. All we are saying that they should take ownership and drive it. And this, yeah.
We want to be secure. Have an insurance company for that purpose only.
We have cyber insurance.
Is there. Cyber security insurance are available.
We'll tell Palo Alto to open information security.
Hello, now.
I think so. Sorry, I've been asked to step down, and we are almost 10 minutes over time. We're happy to take any questions offline. Thank you so very much for being a great audience. Thank you.
May I request all our panelists to be on the dais? I'm sure this is a very interesting session because everyone wants to know how to be secure. And right now, may I request Mr. K.K. Mahapatra to come up on the dais and hand over little mementos to each of our panelists. Thank you, Mr. Anil Bhasin. Thank you, Mr. Shyamol B. Das. Thank you, Mr. Dheeshjith VG. Thank you, Mr. Jaspreet Singh. And thank you, Mr. Partha Sengupta. Well, you all had a lot of questions how to be secure, and I'll tell you our next session